And you got me that way, and I'm wondering if I came on too strong.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Blue Collar Business Podcast, episode 13.
Hello.
Is that right? 13?
I think so.
I really should know. We literally just recorded episode 12.
Yeah.
Just full disclosure, everybody. We do not record these live. They're often done in the past when they come out. But I don't think you care. So if you're new to the show, everybody, our podcast is about starting your own service business and just how possible it is, how easy it is, and motivating people to start their own. Just a little bit of my story. I was working for a small business flipping houses. Me and Grant both worked in the same business, and the business closed up shop, and we were both out of work, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I really liked this kind of work, and I had never thought about running my own business ever in my life. And for the first time, I was like, maybe I could do this on my own. Maybe I could start my own like handyman business and still do what I love. And so I just kind of started it, and I printed some business cards, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it worked. I've been doing it for 3 years. It's been working. And my first year doing it, I was just kind of figuring it out week by week. But I ended up making $55,000 my first year. I was only working about 30 hours a week because I was in school. And it really worked out. So I share that story just to motivate you guys. Like, this is possible. I had a lot of skills from my previous job, but I had no business skills. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I was still able to do this. So it's definitely a possibility. If you have any kind of blue-collar skills, really think about how you could take your skills and turn it into your own business that you're in control of. This week, we're going to be talking about scaling your business. I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been kind of processing that for myself.
Want to make more money?
Yeah, I think that's important.
That's great.
So, yeah, we'll kind of get into that and just some of the ins and outs of scaling your business and talking, I think, more about like future stuff, because me and Grant haven't done a lot as far as scaling. But at least for me, I'm thinking about how I can do that in my business. So for people listening to the show, you can kind of follow our journey of trying some stuff out. And we're trying to figure out how we could maybe scale up our business, and you can follow along, see how it goes, see what we do well, see what we totally fail at. Oh, hold on. I got my notes mixed up here.
Well, do you feel inspired? Because you're working through a business degree right now, so you're like, I'm a proper businessman now.
I'm not crazy about
really go for
college education. And I'm a little bit questioning why I got my degree. But I will say this. I actually have learned a lot.
Yeah.
I'm at Arizona State getting a business degree, and I feel like their business program is actually pretty good. I mean, in college, there's always classes that are just completely useless that I had to do plenty of those. But some of the economics classes have been super good, and I have learned a lot. Like microeconomics was like directly applicable to like my business, so that was kind of cool. Yeah. Let's get into the first segment of each show, and
I forgot.
What have you been working on? So we'll dive into that. Grant, what have you been working on this week?
Well, most recently I was doing some drywall work in a garage. They had a like one of those wall-mounted air conditioning units put in.
Okay, yeah. The long ones?
Yeah, it's like just a big rectangle on the wall. So they had that put in, but they had to cut out like some drywall.
Yeah.
To, run the like there's like there's some wire and like 3 different pipes that have to run to the outside of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to like run it all the way down the wall to get it there.
Somebody else installed this, not you?
Yeah, someone else installed it, and now I'm just
fixing
covering up their work. Yeah. So yeah, today I just cut it out. I had to saw out all the old drywall so I could fit in a new spot on, like, had to cut it out so I could fit it on the studs. Anyway, just kind of boring
So
stuff.
you're a
but-
drywaller again.
Yep.
Said you'd never come crawling back, but here you are.
Well, it's kind of small. It's not too big. So that's what I like to keep it to.
Is
The last one was just too much. So
get a skip trowel texture?
yes, skip trowel, which that one's probably the one I'm best at. So
Yeah. And he's not that good, guys. But
no.
I'm just
I've
kidding.
done some bad skip trowel work, but I'm getting a lot better at it.
I'm honestly not that good either. I did some
It's
skip
tough.
trowel this
It's
week
tough
that
to
I
get
wasn't
right.
super happy with. I was a little disappointed in myself, but it happens. Speaking of that, I was working on hanging a big chandelier this last week, and
Like how big?
it was heavy. It was like maybe like 50 pounds or more.
Whoa.
So it was a lot. It was really cool. It had like 2 levels and like maybe 12 or more lights on it. So it was pretty big. But it looked super nice in their house. They had like pretty high ceilings, and so it was beautiful. But I had to not only just install it, but I had to take the wiring from an old fixture and move the wiring from that old fixture into a different location where they wanted the new chandelier kind of in the central.
Oh, right.
Like line it up with their TV and all, because the one before was like in a really weird location. It wasn't in the center of the room. So I had to move all that. So that required a bit more work. So I had to do some electrical work and some drywall work and some hanging of the chandelier and assembling it.
So did you already finish hanging it?
Yeah, I did all that on Monday. I did it in
Okay.
6 hours.
How did you hang it? Because I've run into problems where like I get a semi-heavy chandelier, and like I'll have to hold it in one hand, and like I'll almost like destroy my elbow holding this thing up.
Yeah.
And
I
then
definitely
like
did some of
try
that.
to get the wires and hook it up with my other hand. I mean,
Yeah.
I found better ways to do this, but sometimes like that was the only option. You know, usually I like hang it up on top of the ladder or something.
I was on top of that ladder holding that thing, and I'm like, man, I really need to exercise more. Like my arms are not strong enough.
Really?
I'm barely hanging on to this thing. But I was able to do it.
Did you just hold it?
Yeah, I just held it up there.
Dang,
Luckily, it had like
it's tough to do that.
it was chains, but the top chain had like you could loosen it and just kind of stick it on there. So it was kind of nice where I could just lift it up and just kind of stick it onto the
Yeah,
other chain that was hanging from the ceiling.
you
I
still
don't
gotta
know.
like
It's hard
wire
to
it first,
describe,
though,
though.
right?
Yeah, I had to do all the wiring. It was definitely a pain in the neck, but it
Okay.
wasn't so bad. That job, like I said, took me 6 hours on Monday, and I made over 500. So I made about
Ooh.
85 an hour. It was great. I was
That's
pretty
good
happy
money.
with that. That was like, all right, I'm meeting my goals. I think I shared last episode that I'm trying to scale up my business a little bit, which is what this episode's about. And I was shooting for like 80, between like 80 and 100 for jobs, at least for not for like friends and family. I usually give them a little bit better price, but yeah, that was my goal lately, and I was at least able to meet it in this job, so I was pretty happy about that. Something else I want to mention that happened to me a couple weeks ago was I was getting breakfast with somebody, and this random guy, we were eating bagels, and some random guy at this bagel shop walks up to me.
Hey, I know you from the podcast. That's never happened.
No, that does not happen, folks. Maybe one day. No, he just saw I was wearing a Sherwin-Williams shirt that I got for free, and he had a painting business, and he handed me his card. And anyway, he's like, call me, I have a painting job for you. But he runs this big painting business, so I'm like, there's no way I call him and he's going to pay me more than like $30 an hour to paint somebody's house. So I just didn't even call him. But it made me think about this episode of like scaling and, like I said, trying to work for between like $60 and $100 an hour. Like, how can you do that? How can you try to make more money? Sometimes it feels like I'm charging too much, and we work through some of that. But that's part of the motivation of this show is like that guy. he essentially wanted me to work for him as like an employee for his painting business.
Yeah.
And I know he's going to be taking money off the top, so he's not going to be able to pay me more than like probably $30 an hour, maybe probably less. So that's why we're doing this show is like, why don't you be that guy who's running his own painting business and doing all the painting himself, and you don't have anybody taking money off the top, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of why we do the show,
Right.
is because we want to be that guy who doesn't work for somebody and is
Right,
actually
right.
taking home the
you can
money.
take the money.
Yeah, I mean that guy meant well, but I was like,
Oh, yeah,
no
yeah.
thanks.
But yeah, you can make more money doing your own thing.
Yeah. So like I said, we're talking about scaling your service business. So what does that mean, scaling? Like, and what are we getting into? I remember I mentioned I'm finishing up my business program at ASU, my business degree. And in my microeconomics class, there was a whole section about economies of scale. And I wasn't familiar with that before. But it's kind of an interesting concept of like you can have better costs in your business if you have a large enough operation. Like, for example, Amazon, like they're huge, right? But if someone was trying to like start up a business to compete with Amazon, their costs would be massive. Like they'd have to
Right.
pay for every shipment to go through like USPS or UPS. So they'd have a lot of costs associated with their business because they'd have to pay more for shipping. They'd have to pay, they'd have to do most of the work themselves. But like Amazon, they've gotten so big, they're able to work at economies of scale, as they say, because
Yeah.
it's such a huge
I mean,
scale.
they can invest in like their warehouses are run by robots pretty much.
Yeah, and like their
Like they can invest in that kind
their
of stuff.
costs for shipping things is a lot lower now because they have their own infrastructure for it.
Right.
Like they don't have to pay a separate company. Like when they first started, actually, if you remember, Amazon was shipping through like UPS. And now they don't do that because they do their own shipping.
Mm-hmm.
And so that actually gives them a lower cost to ship because of the scale of their operation. So that's kind of what we're talking about. Like the larger your scale, the lower your costs, the higher your profits. Yeah, so we're just talking about that. And with a service business, especially like for the audience that we're trying to talk to, is like me and you, we're sole proprietors. Like we don't really have a whole operation. It's just me and you running
Yeah.
our own business. And I think for most people, that's what they're going to be operating with. But when you start something like that, sometimes you think about the future and like, well, is that how I'm always going to do it? Am I always just going to work with myself? Is it possible for me to scale up? Is it possible for me to hire? Like I'm even thinking about stuff like that because I'm going through a transition right now. I think I've shared on the podcast before how I was going to be transitioning into a different job and not focusing on this full time, but I'm actually decided not to go down that path. And now I am focusing on my business full time. So like now it's got me thinking like, should I scale up my business? Should I continue to just work for myself? Should I hire people? And, so yeah, I thought this episode would be at least super relevant to me and
Yeah.
relevant to you as well, I'm sure, and definitely our listeners. Because even if we're talking to people who haven't started their business yet,
Yeah.
and so you might be thinking, why is this relevant? But maybe one of your objections to starting your own small business is you're like, well, I'm never going to be able to make
Yeah.
that much money.
Can't like they're like, oh, there's not a lot of room for growth.
Yeah, but there is, depending on what you do. Like you can scale up your business, and so we're going to get into that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that like economy of scale stuff. Like I had to hire a air conditioning company to fix my AC. It was yesterday it went out, or 2 days ago it went out.
At your house?
Yeah.
Oh,
And it was just like a couple parts that stopped working. It was like a capacitor or something. But anyway, I was just thinking like they got it done so fast and so quickly. You know, it wasn't like super expensive. But like I was just thinking like, okay, if I tried to do that myself, I don't really know what I would be doing. It would take me forever to figure out what even the problem was. Like it would just take a
Yeah.
long time. And their business is at a size that I wasn't even talking to the guy who went out. He has his like group of dudes who go out to each job. So he just tells his guy to go to this house. He knocks it out in like minutes because he has all the stuff he needs like in his truck.
yeah.
Like he's just ready to go for like most common issues. So I just the speed at which they can get things done, as opposed to like just me trying to figure it out. It's like if your business is at that size, it's so much more efficient
Definitely.
than just like a single guy trying to figure it out. So
Yeah, it's cool to think about when you think down that path of scaling up because, yeah, like you said, you can do things a lot faster
yeah.
because it's like you're focusing on it. And
Well, it's just like
all your efforts are focused on making it as quick as possible.
He's got these AC techs who probably just do the same things over and over again, so they're so fast at it.
True. Yeah, I was thinking too about maybe an objection to starting a business is like, well, if you have like lofty goals of like I want to make a lot of money, I want to make like $300 an hour. That's not possible for us.
Yeah.
You know, there's a point at which we can only make so much money because we're trading time for money. You know, like our operation is pretty much solely on like how much money we're making per hour, and that has a cap to it. Like people aren't gonna hire you to to fix a hole in their drywall for $300 an hour. You know what I mean? That's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So if
you
you're
have to
thinking
find
about
like something super niche where people just like have no
maybe
like cap at what they would
monopoly
pay
on it, I guess.
yeah, but that doesn't really. It's not really an option for us. So.
Yeah.
Or unless you want to be like, I think I mentioned on another podcast, but like that scuba diver pool guy, like
Oh yeah, stuff like
you
that.
could probably charge a lot.
Probably nobody else doing
Yeah,
it. But most of the stuff we do, there's a lot of competition. So if I'm gonna bid someone $500 to fix a small hole in their drywall, like no thanks, I'm gonna hire somebody else who can do that for cheaper. So you can't make $300 an hour, like I said. But what can you do? Like what if you need that much money for whatever reason? I don't know. What if you really need to make a lot? Is that possible? And I think definitely in this business, the only way to do that is to scale up your business and maybe hire people or figure out systems where you're
What would you think would be like some of the first steps in that? Would it be hiring other people?
So I think you got to take steps. Like right now, I've been working for about 3 years now on my own, just myself. And so for me, I am thinking about like long term, like how am I going to make a little bit more money? And I don't think my next step is to hire somebody. I think my next step is to put systems in place where like maybe hiring someone is possible in the future. Like I need to get like an LLC so that I'm not in danger of somebody suing me and taking my assets in my house and stuff like that.
I guess as you do more and more jobs of like people that you really have no idea who they are, they're not like, I mean, for like a lot of the jobs I've done have been like people who kind of know me. Mm-hmm. So it's been like, You're
not so worried about getting sued.
I'm not worried about any kind of lawsuits or anything. But yeah, as you do like more just complete strangers, it's that can be a concern.
Yeah, so it's just like one step at a time. So like that, I want to start getting better at pricing individual jobs. Like how much am I going to charge for fixing a toilet? Like I want to start working on like flat rates for stuff so that I can just I've heard other people in trade business talk about this app called Jobber where and there's other apps like it where you can track like jobs and really do really easy like estimates for people and receipts for people, and it's just like all super easy to have it all in this one system. You're able to just like, all right, I fixed a toilet for somebody, I installed a fan for somebody, I already have that price in my system, I just add it to their bill and like stuff like that. I don't have that infrastructure yet, but I want to have those systems so that maybe one day I could hire somebody. But I can't hire somebody, or I could hire somebody now, but it'd be pretty messy because I don't have all the systems in place. And another thing we've mentioned the last few episodes about like cutting down on time at Home Depot, like stuff like that. I think part of that is scaling too.
That's what I was just thinking. Like, it's not necessarily making a big step like hiring someone. It could just be like really just making your process way more efficient.
Yeah.
Or also I was thinking, which I'm sure you've thought of this and this is something you actually do kind of actively, is just like broadening your like client base, or at least the people who know about you. Like you say, you like give out business cards and so that you have more people calling in asking for help, so you can pick and choose, what kind of jobs you take on. Maybe you just take on the ones that pay more, and that's a way to make more money.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's something I've been focusing on too, is like expanding how many leads I'm getting, because
Right.
when I have more leads, then I'm able to pick and choose more, and then I'm able to say yes to the higher ticket items and no to the ones that aren't going to pay as well.
Right.
That's part of scaling too, and yeah, and cutting down, like, economies of scale is all about having lower costs. So like, even if I'm not going to talk about hiring people, how can I cut down on my costs right now? Like the job I did recently where I installed the chandelier, I spent the first 30 or 40 minutes of that job measuring out with a measuring tape where I'm going to put the new fixture, because they want it in a specific location, like centered on the walls. And I had to measure it all out with my measuring tape, and I had to measure like 200 feet with a measuring tape on the ceiling. So it's like, it took me forever
Yeah.
because it was so inefficient. And I'm like, maybe I should buy like a laser measuring.
I
'cause
just
they have
I
those
just bought a
devices.
new one.
Oh, did you?
You can take my old one. It doesn't seem to work, but you can try to fix it if you want.
That's, well, I might take you up on that. But that's an example of like cutting down on costs. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to do a lot of stuff like that, if I had one of those, that took me 40 minutes to do all that measuring. It could have taken me 5 minutes.
Right. It really speed things up. Right?
Yeah.
Or I was thinking a while ago, I haven't really had a need for it recently, but I was thinking of buying like a laser level, and like that would just speed things up because I use a 4-foot level on a lot of things, and
Yeah.
it's time consuming to just constantly have to move it 4 feet at a time. So
Did you end up getting a laser level?
no, I didn't. I mean, I was looking at them, but I ended up getting them, and I haven't really.
You said
needed-
they're expensive, right?
they are, and I haven't really needed it. I don't need it that often, so maybe the next big job that I really need it, I might.
And maybe as you do this, because you said it's been like almost a year now you've been doing this on your own.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll get up more of a feel of what type of jobs you end up doing or that
Yeah.
you like to do. And if that requires like a laser level a lot, then you're like, I think it'd be worth the investment.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to need it more than once a year, then it's not worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking through maybe some objections to scaling. Like if you end up taking our advice, starting a small business, and maybe you don't want to scale up. You're like, I'm happy just working for myself, and it's just me. I don't have to worry about anything else. So just people that might object to that. And some of them I think are valid objections. Like you, for example, I don't know if you would want to scale up. I think you're happy.
I was
with
just
what
thinking
you're
that,
doing.
like, I don't really imagine like hiring other people or
Yeah.
really changing my process drastically like that anytime
It
soon.
works for you, and you're happy with
There's
it.
plenty of things I can do to scale my business and just mostly just make it more efficient.
Yeah.
And I do need to work on that. But yeah, I don't really plan on like, hiring a bunch of people or becoming like a general contractor.
And why is that?
Oh, I mean, I guess right now it's not really something I'm thinking about because I enjoy like actually doing the work myself, and yeah, I mean, I like doing the work most of the time, so I don't mind doing smaller jobs that I'm the only one working on it.
I do remember when we were working together flipping houses, there was sometimes where we'd have other people helping that the company hired, and I do remember I don't think you loved that because I think you work better alone sometimes.
Well,
Or
it was
you
also hard to really make it even worth hiring them. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
tough to really make it worth the time, especially because a lot of people we hired like weren't
Super
they
skilled.
weren't very skilled at it, which was just who we had to work with.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, you can definitely find help that way. Definitely would be worth it. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Another,
But yeah, also I just like sometimes I just like working alone. So.
yeah, I mean, it definitely has its perks. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about anybody else. You can take off when you need to.
Right.
Another objection I thought was worth tackling is there's this thing that like service entrepreneurs call the valley of despair, where it's like you're in between having a pretty big scale operation and just like sole proprietorship, and it's where you're not making a lot of money and it's like way more work because you have to manage all these people and manage all these systems, and so maybe people don't really want to go through
The
that
valley
process.
of despair.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very fun.
No, but I think it's probably something you have to go through.
Probably.
Because like, if you scale up your business to where you have like 50 employees, 50 times whatever percentage you're taking home based off of all those people's work, like that's a decent profit. But if you have like one or two and things are going bad and they're not doing great work,
Right.
you're going to be running around all over the place trying to fix messes, and it's going to be a nightmare. But I think sometimes that's part of the process, and you got to
yeah,
work
it's just
through it,
part of the learning process of figuring out how to
figuring
make
out
it
what
actually
it
work.
means to be like a business owner rather than just like a sole proprietor. Yeah. I don't have a lot more to say about this. We might do another episode as we go on about scaling, especially like I said, as me in particular and Grant, we're working through maybe scaling up a little bit. So you guys can kind of follow our process and how it goes. So I think that'll be exciting for the podcast. It's just kind of tracking our experience with this. So we'll probably come back to this topic, but do you have anything else to say today?
No, I think we covered it for what we know at this point. You know, I think we did all right. I have something that's not on topic, but
What is it?
no, I was just wondering, and I've been trying to do this. I'm so bad at it, but of like taking good before and after photos,
Oh, yeah.
because I think it'd
I've
be
never been good at that.
helpful. I don't know. Do you have a website or anything? I feel like one point I'd like to make up a website or something, some kind of web presence with photos and
Yeah.
stuff.
That's
But
a great idea.
I almost never remember to take before and after photos. Mostly the before, I just never think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first started, that was something I tried to do, and I very rarely did it. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna take before and after pictures, and I did it a few times, but now I just completely gave up on it.
Yeah.
But I think I do want to start.
It's
a
not
website.
like that important, I don't think. I mean, it's never been. So I don't know, but I think it'd be good to have,
Mhm.
and I'm just not good about it. I was just wondering if you, like, ever really did that.
No, I mean I did in the past, but I haven't done it in a long time. But
Yeah.
I do like. I think, like I said, next steps. One of them for me is starting a website. And
Yeah, I was just
having
thinking, like, I guess
pictures
it's
and
on
stuff
topic. Like, eventually, starting a website was a good way to scale your business.
Yeah, and I think it's part of getting more leads and
Yeah.
looking more professional. It's going to be an important step for sure. So let's go into the final question segment. If you were to scale up your business, Grant, what do you think you'd focus on? Like, would you just scale up your handyman business, or would you focus on like maybe carpentry or?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I would get a little more focused on what I'm good at. I feel like I'm spreading myself a little too thin on like the different kind of jobs I do.
Yeah.
Where it's like now I'm at the point where I'm just not fast at anything. So it's like I think I just need to focus on a few different types of jobs. Like, okay, I'm getting fast at this. I'll try to do more of these because I
Yeah.
can really knock them out quickly. I think that would be a good thing to focus on. I mean, it would take, a lot more jobs, I guess, to figure out exactly what I am like faster at doing. So that's why I've been trying to track like how long things are taking me. So I have that information.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think I'm realizing that I should probably stop trying to learn things because I end up saying yes to a lot of jobs where I'm like, I'm not going to make a lot of money on this, but I'll learn something.
Yeah.
And I think maybe my days of doing that are over, where I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I've learned a lot about a lot of different things. Maybe I can just start focusing on what I'm good at. Like,
Yeah.
I don't love drywall, but I've gotten pretty good at it, and maybe I can focus on that, or like painting. I think that's part of, if you want to make more money, sometimes you got to do that and start focusing on certain things rather than just kind of doing everything.
Right. Right.
It's not as fun.
But that's the thing. Like, I think that's part of like scaling your business is you do have to make like changes like that. Whereas like I do genuinely like the problem solving part of this job, and a lot of that only happens when I try things I haven't really done before. So if you scale your business, a good way to do it is to just stick to what you're good at, and so you don't get to do that as often.
Yeah, but again, that might be a valid objection to scaling your business. Is like, I really like learning new things. I like trying out something and figuring out the process of a new problem that I haven't figured out how to solve before. And if you enjoy that, then maybe just stick with that for the time being. Grant, do you have any other final questions? You got anything good for us?
Oh, no, I wrote this down a while ago when we did our tool episode.
Yeah.
And I've just been curious, like, what is the most expensive tool that you own?
Ooh, that's a good question. none of my tools are crazy expensive. Like if somebody broke into my car and stole everything, I'd be really furious, but it wouldn't like destroy me.
I was thinking about this recently because I was calling my insurance and I was like, they were talking about my renter's insurance, and I was trying to figure out if I really even want that. Because I'm like, I don't have anything that's super expensive.
Because they cover what's in your car too, right?
Yeah,
For
but
renter's
they're
insurance?
like, oh, well, and I mentioned that I have like a bunch of tools, and they're like, yeah, well, we would cover that. I'm like, oh, I guess that would be useful then. But I was like, I don't really have anything that's super expensive. I do have a few tools though that are like, and I was thinking like the most expensive thing I have is like, I think like $600.
What's
My
that?
paint sprayer is also like $500.
Okay.
But like my miter saw was like pretty expensive. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
$600, and the table saw was like $400, $500.
I think my table saw was the most expensive. It was $400, I think, for a nice DeWalt table saw. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was $200.
Did you get it used or something?
No, I got it on like a sale.
That seems really good.
Yeah, I was pretty happy about it at the time. Maybe my paint sprayer then. I think
Okay.
it's like $300 or $400.
Yeah.
But man, is it nice to have a paint sprayer. It makes like painting so much faster. I love it.
Yeah, those are nice. Okay, paint sprayer.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yeah, but again, I don't even have all my stuff like insured. If it got stolen, I would just be fuming for weeks.
Yeah.
But then I'd be like, all right, it's like $1,000. I can live with that. It's not going to destroy my business.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's not like, I don't know. It's not going to ruin everything if I get a couple tools stolen.
I'd probably just be hustling on Facebook Marketplace for a couple weeks, getting everything back. I'd be trying to hunt down the people that stole it and choke them out.
You mostly just be mad.
Yeah, just cursing their name every day.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the only question I had.
That was a great question. I love it. Well, Grant is going to be out of town. I'm going to be out of town for a couple weeks. So hopefully we don't miss a week. 'Cause we're trying to bank some episodes. But yeah, we will hopefully see you guys next week.
All right. Bye.
And you got me that way.